presidents of all, which by the way is the president I love the most, is Ronald Reagan. And when he said bombing starts in 5 minutes, I remember 2 weeks later Gorbachev announced perestroika. He was just joking about the bombing starts in 5 minutes, but there were people in Russia said, you know, this Cold War is crazy, communism is bankrupt, it's not the right system. Okay. The problem today in America is there are influences coming in which are taking out God, taking out the Lord, taking out the Bible, taking out the Ten Commandments, taking out Judeo-Christianity, and creating a vacuum. And so if you take these things out of America, then you are no longer foolish in the Lord. You're just foolish. And then America goes down. That's really my message tonight. I don't care if you're a Jew or a Christian, but we have a God called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to that God we owe our allegiance. And that God will defend the United States of America. If we defend our faith in God, then God will defend us. If we abandon God, and by the way, it's a very small vocal minority in America that is working to denude America of its Judeo-Christian faith. Okay. What I want to do is I want to give a few more tips from Islam, and then we're going to go into the war that we're facing. Chapter 5, verse 51 of the Quran says, believers, Muslims, take neither the Jews nor the Christians for your friends. The Jews and the Christians are friends with one another. Whoever befriends them will become one of them. Allah does not guide the wrongdoer. Allah hates the Jews and the Christians. And by the way, there's a story that happened in St. Louis, it's in my first book, of a young Palestinian 16-year-old girl in St. Louis. And she decided to date a young black man, an American, a Christian. And her parents said, you may not go out with a man who's a non-Muslim. And she said, come on, Mom and Dad, get over it. We're in America now. So the mother held the daughter, and the father started to beat her. The girl broke loose. She dialed 911. The mother slapped the receiver out of her hand, but did not disconnect the phone. The police tape recorder clicked, and the police listened horrified as the father stabbed the daughter to death, saying, in the name of Allah, you must not take a Jew or a Christian for your friend. They are friends with one another. Whoever befriends them will become one of them. Allah does not guide the wrongdoer. It is forbidden for a Muslim woman to have anything to do, marry especially, a Jew or a Christian man. By the way, I have to tell you a little story. My wife is Egyptian. She's Jewish, but she's Egyptian. Arabic is her mother tongue. She left Egypt at age 20. And we were both flying out of DFW in Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. And our screener at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport was a Muslim woman dressed in a burqa. And I don't know if you get it or not, but I'm a charmer, and I speak Arabic. So immediately I said to her, Sabah al-Khair, good morning. And I tried to be charming with her. She was very pleased that somebody spoke to her in Arabic. And so she answered me in Arabic. And then I said to her immediately, I said, Di Marati, this is my wife. Hiya Masriya, she's Egyptian. And her countenance changed 180%. And she looked at my wife, very angry, and she said, why did you marry one of them? It is a death sentence for a Muslim woman to marry a Jewish or Christian man. By the way, Anthony Weiner, I don't know how he converted, but there is no way that he did not convert, because his Saudi wife would have been, she's in such a high prominence in Saudi Arabia, that if she married a Jewish man from New York, she had to be killed. If she wasn't killed, he's a Muslim. Okay. There's a teaching in the Quran, chapter 5, verse 60, which says the following. Allah cursed those who betrayed him and converted them into monkeys and pigs. Do you know what the monkeys and pigs are? The Jews and the Christians. Why did Allah curse us and turn us into monkeys and pigs? Because we Jews and Christians, as one people, the people of the book, we refuse to accept Muhammad as the latest and the greatest of the prophets. Because the Jews and the Christians, who should have known better, refused to accept Muhammad as the latest and the greatest of the prophets, Allah cursed us and he turned us into monkeys and pigs. Now, by the way, my wife Rachel, again, give you another example of her work. In the summer of 2003, she picked up a broadcast, which my wife and I traveled to Switzerland afterwards, and we broadcast this all over Switzerland in 2003. And the broadcast was of the Mufti of Jerusalem, Akram as-Sabri. And Akram as-Sabri was saying, kill the Jews, kill the Christians, kill the Israelis, kill the Americans, kill the monkeys and kill the pigs. So you have to understand, when you hear monkeys and pigs, this comes from the Quran, chapter 5, verse 60. By the way, I want you to know, do you remember Rodney Dangerfield, I Don't Get No Respect? Now, I've never been on the first page of any major American paper. I've never been on the first page of any Israeli paper. I made first page of Saudi Arabia's biggest newspaper, Al Watan, with my picture, and they said that I am a senior Mossad officer sent by the Israeli government, I wish, it's not true, to mobilize the Christians to defeat Islam. And so those two last things are true. My work is to mobilize the Christians and defeat Islam, because the Christians in America today are 300 million. So those are some examples from the Quran. There are many more examples from the Quran. I wanted to give you another teaching from the Hadith. Hadith says that on the Day of Judgment there will be a final battle, and Jews will all be annihilated. Every Jew on the face of the earth will be killed by the Muslims. There will be some Jews who escape death temporarily. They will hide behind rocks and trees, and on that day Allah will give mouths to the rocks and trees, and they will call out, "O Muslim pursuers, there is a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him." How many people have heard of this teaching before? Okay, so this is from the Hadith. It's not the Quran, it's the Hadith. There is no Muslim who calls himself or herself a Muslim that does not believe that on the Day of Judgment, all the Jews who have not converted to Islam, they all have to be killed. Okay. Now, there's another teaching from the Hadith about Jesus. Jesus Christ is coming back a second time as an Arabic-speaking Muslim warrior. He will be on a horse, he'll have a lance, and he will run the lance through the Antichrist. The Antichrist is a Jew, in case you didn't know. Ask any Muslim. Jesus is a Muslim, the Antichrist is a Jew. And he will kill the Antichrist, he'll go up to Jerusalem, he will pray with 400,000 Muslims on the Temple Mount, then he will come down, break the crosses, destroy the churches of the Christians, destroy the synagogues of the Jews, and on that Day of Judgment, all the Jews and Christians who are one people, the people of the book, all the Jews and Christians who have not converted to Islam will have their throats personally slit by Jesus Christ the Muslim. You have to understand, I didn't make this up. You can ask any Muslim, and if you say, is Jesus a Muslim? They'll say, Alhamdulillah, praise Allah. You got it, you understand it. Jesus is coming back as a Muslim. Okay, now these are things you have to understand, because we're talking about the end of times. The Muslim end of times is that Islam conquers the world, and the Jews and Christians disappear, and the Hindus and the Buddhists disappear, and the blacks disappear, and anybody who's not a Muslim disappears. Okay, now, what is America in their eyes? America is the great Christian Satan. The world cannot be conquered unless the great Christian Satan is taken out first. Now, there are two theories on how to do this. One is, I call it the revolutionary, and the other is the evolutionary. Revolutionary Islam is 9/11 Islam. It's the Osama bin Laden Islam, where you destroy the buildings, you destroy the planes, you destroy the economy, and you create absolute chaos and the death of billions of people. Revolutionary Islam, which is often has the euphemism of moderate Islam, it's not moderate, but has a slightly different approach. Evolutionary Islam says, we will buy out America, we will use the petrodollars, the money from the oil, to buy out the banks, corporations, oil companies, the media, and the politicians, and the school systems. This is the plan of evolutionary Islam. Okay, now, America pretty much succeeded in staying out of the troubles of the Middle East. And I want to share a testimony with you, which I've written 5 books. This is the only testimony I repeat in all 5 of my books. And it's about the Council on Foreign Relations. How many people heard of the Council on Foreign Relations? Okay. Now, I'm watching the clock because I don't want to get... I'm going to finish this, I'm going to get into the Arab Spring, but I'm building up to it. So I think you can understand from my message that a great threat to Judeo-Christian Western civilization is Islam as a religious system. There is another problem facing Judeo-Christian America, and it's called the harlot riding the devil, harlot riding the serpent. In other words, you have an organization which I call the Council on Foreign Relations.